Hi everyone, Naveen here. In this video, I will be explaining in depth the fictional birth chart of Andrew that I created based on episode 2 of AstroMind. If you haven't watched the episode yet, you can watch it in our channel. Please note that whenever I use the word episode, I am referring to episode 2. Episode 2 is a story of a young gymnast who is a university student. All his life, he was a confident and even a cocky person who is blessed with very good athletic ability. But everything changes when he meets with an accident. Now, suddenly his physical ability, his whole pride is taken away in a moment. And he has to look beyond that in life. His transformation truly begins when he finally understands what Christopher said, an old man he encounters recently in a convenience store. Now, let me explain the transformation using astrology. In this fictional chart, I will focus on the active planets, the ones that influence Andrew to completely reshape his character. Now, the active planets in the fictional chart are Mars in the 8th house, Sun in the 10th house, Moon and Jupiter in the 12th house. This is a simple chart, but it has deep transformation. Coming to the first planet, Andrew is primarily influenced by Mars and Sun archetypes. I will start with Mars in the 8th house. See, I usually don't include specific ascendants, but for this character, I felt it had to be necessary. Let's start. Andrew is an Aries ascendant, meaning Mars is the lord of the first house. He has a typical Aries energy, always ready to take things head on. He is extremely confident, especially in his physical abilities. But his Mars is placed in 8th house in Scorpio, the biggest sign of transformation and most complicated sign as well. Also, any planet in the 8th house will put the native under immense transformation. Now, remember, Mars in 8th house in its own sign and house is extremely powerful position. That's why he is always confident of himself and his ability to win. Yes, Andrew is a winner in most things he does. At its best, this position creates natives who can transform themselves in extreme conditions. At its worst, this can create a person who may not understand the transformation and turns aggressive and confronted on the outside. Also, this placement may lead to huge accidents many times. Remember, Mars is the planet related to sudden accidents. Placed in the 8th house, Andrew faces the accident. A word of caution to people who have this placement: always be aware of your surroundings and do not drive for excitement. Have absolute control over your speed. Now, let's talk about the next active planet in the chart, Sun in the 10th house. This is usually considered as a good placement. 10th house Sun has the highest potential to create leaders. Sun here gives Andrew the ability to overcome the competition and give him massive success. Remember, Sun also represents our immunity, and when placed in the 10th for an athlete like Andrew, this is as good of a blessing as it gets. But the downside of this placement is the huge self-pressure Andrew puts on himself. He cannot even think of losing. He hates losing, which can be good thing, but when you tie your whole identity and your self-worth to only winning, you put yourself under immense psychological pressure. Now, add to this the 8th house placement Andrew has, which is why he kind of becomes restless as the competition nears by. Now, caution to the people who have Sun in the 10th house. Please note, winning is not the only aim of life, and learn to accept defeats as they come. Some defeats in life teach you more than any victory could. Moving on to the next important placement in Andrew's chart, Moon in the 12th house. This is without a doubt a placement that makes Andrew restless and seeks things he otherwise would never be interested in. Moon always represents a mother figure in life. Remember, Andrew meets the girl just before his accident. This is not a coincidence. He, in fact, tries to even flirt a little the first time he meets her during practice. But notice something. She isn't even interested in that, not because of Andrew, but because she came as an intuition to warn him before the accident. It was almost like a mother sensing some danger for her child. If you do have this combination, you may in fact have intuitive powers as well. The caution here is to not only depend on your intuition, also think logically so you don't put psychological pressure on yourself. Lastly, and one of the most important placement in Andrew's chart is Jupiter in 12th house. If Sun and Mars pushed Andrew to challenge and always think about winning, Jupiter is the one that asks, what if victory will not make you feel happy and content? Now, this isn't a question most people ever think of asking themselves. And also, Jupiter represents the guru or mentor in our life. That's why Andrew meets Christopher, who acts as an unusual mentor who intuitively knows what Andrew is going through. Christopher isn't logical or even philosophical. He asks questions that keep Andrew awake at night. One of the most important things he teaches to Andrew is to live in the present and not be tied to any outcome. Now, Jupiter is the natural owner of 12th house. People with this placement can even meet mentors in a foreign place. They may like to travel and learn about foreign cultures. They may at later part in life choose to be spiritual or even live an extremely simple life. These natives, once they understand this placement, they can have immense self-awareness. Now, putting everything together, Mars in the 8th house, Sun in the 10th house, Moon and Jupiter in the 12th house, we see a young man who was extremely confident and only ever thought about winning until one day he meets an old man who questions his whole personality, which was based on results. And after the accident, his entire consciousness shifts. He finally learns that results do not define his self-worth and he is liberated mentally. With this, I'll leave this episode here.